Okay, let's go straight across to Paris then. That's our first stop. Remember, France is one of the countries that has seen an exponential rise in corona cases in the last week alone. It now is among the top 10 countries in the world, more than 59,000 corona cases. Joining me now from Paris is Koel Purie Rinchet. Koel, appreciate your joining us. First of all, how are you? What is the current situation in France on COVID-19, and tell us your experience.
Hello Rajdeep. As you know, the situation in France is grave. The death toll has already crossed the 4,000 mark. There are close to 60,000 corona cases, although that does include the people who have made a recovery. Yet it is not an accurate figure because it only includes the people who have been hospitalized or have been tested. There are several of those who are diagnosed over the phone, told to stay at home unless their condition turns critical because they don't want to overwhelm the hospitals. An indicative figure is the number of people who require ICU or ventilators, and that number seems to have stabilized over the last few days, which is a good sign because everyone here is waiting for the peak, although we still seem to be in the ascending phase.
Koel, the Indian Prime Minister addressed people via video message on Friday morning. I believe that the French President too has been speaking regularly to the French public across video chats almost every day.
In fact, last night, Prime Minister Edouard Philippe gave 2 hours of his time on primetime television to take questions from the public. It is this kind of transparent reassurance which is keeping the French people calm, keeping them home, and arousing a sense of solidarity.
Now, how many days has this lockdown been in place in France? What are the restrictions that the French authorities have put at the moment there?
Well, this is day 19th of our confinement in France, or le confinement as the French like to say, which has officially been extended till the 15th of April. Although the Prime Minister made it very clear that they wouldn't deconfine in a hurry because they had a lot to consider of whether they had a treatment for the virus, how to prevent a second wave, whether they would deconfine age-wise or area-wise. I have to say the weather here is beckoning us to go out, but everyone is being fairly strict with staying in and with keeping themselves confined mainly because the authorities have been crystal clear in informing the people of what is allowed and what isn't allowed. And every time you step out of the house, you have to have a signed copy of the attestation de déplacement. You can handwrite it if you want. You have to clearly state the hour that you left the house because you're only allowed to be out of the house one time for 1 hour. You can go out to the pharmacy, to the grocery, you can walk your dog, or you can take a little walk yourself. You have to be within a 1 kilometer radius. You have to go solo unless you have an underage child.
So in a sense, life has changed for virtually every Frenchman as it is across Europe and indeed the world. How has life specifically changed in the wake of coronavirus for you at the moment?
Well, to start with, Rajdeep, I haven't seen this much of my husband and daughter in all their lives as I have in the past 3 weeks. But jokes aside, as President Macron said, we are at war, and if all we have to do is sit at home to win this war, then that's hardly a sacrifice. And we're lucky, we have a nice apartment, so we try and find our own little corners of refuge. But it's not easy because my husband's working full-time. I'm trying to do as much writing as I can. My daughter is in e-school, but she's not of an autonomous age, so I have to be teacher, mother, plus of course cook. My husband does help cook, but we still have to get 3 meals on the table, lots and lots of snacks because everyone is just constantly hungry and at home. We have to be clever with what's in the fridge because you don't want to step out too often. You know there will be shortages. You don't want to waste anything. But at the same time, you get perspective because you're grateful. You're grateful for having a roof over your head. You're grateful for the food in the fridge. You're grateful for being safe. You're grateful for having a family that you can tolerate. And I hope that when we do come out on the other side of this, that we are slightly changed, that we are kinder, that we have a greater sense of community.
Koel Purie Rinchet, stay well, stay safe. Thank you very much for joining us there from Paris. I'm going to move from Paris to a country where coronavirus cases are multiplying by the day. Along with Italy and United States, Spain now has become the world's focus.